Robert Harrison stood at his bedroom window, looking out at the big yard behind his house. The grass was getting too long again. The flower beds his wife Mary had loved so much were full of weeds. Everything looked messy and sad. It had been 6 months since Mary died from cancer. 6 long months of trying to keep everything together for his daughter Sarah. The big house felt empty without Mary's laugh filling the rooms, without her warm meals on the table, without her gentle voice telling him everything would be okay. Robert was a successful man. He owned 3 furniture stores in town and had more money than most people. But money could not bring back his wife. Money could not make the house feel like home again. Money could not help him know what to do with a 15-year-old daughter who cried herself to sleep every night. Sarah tried to help around the house. She did the dishes and tried to cook simple meals. But she was just a kid. She needed to focus on school and her friends. She needed time to heal from losing her mother. Robert knew he needed help. His neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, had been telling him for weeks about a woman who cleaned houses. "Dorothy Williams is the best housekeeper in the whole county," Mrs. Peterson said. "She worked for the Johnson family for 8 years. Never missed a day. Never broke anything. The house was always perfect." But there was something Mrs. Peterson did not say directly. Something Robert heard in her voice and saw in her face. Dorothy Williams was a black woman. In 1963, in their small southern town, this mattered to a lot of people. Robert had grown up hearing certain things about black people. His father had told him never to trust them completely. His friends at the country club made jokes and comments. That made Robert uncomfortable, but he never spoke up. He told himself he was not like them. He told himself he was fair and open-minded. But deep down, old fears and doubts lived in his heart. The doorbell rang on a Tuesday morning. Robert opened the door and saw a woman standing on his front porch. She was wearing a clean blue dress and carried a small purse. Her hair was neat, and her shoes were polished. She looked directly at him with kind but serious eyes. "Mr. Harrison, I am Dorothy Williams. Mrs. Peterson said you might need some help with your house." Her voice was soft but strong. She did not look down at her feet or act nervous like Robert expected. She stood straight and waited for his answer. "Yes, please come in," Robert said, stepping back to let her inside. Dorothy walked into the front hall and looked around. She saw the dust on the tables, the newspapers piled up on the couch, the dishes stacked in the kitchen sink that Robert could see from where they stood. "Mrs. Peterson told me about your wife," Dorothy said quietly. "I am very sorry for your loss. Losing someone you love is the hardest thing in the world." Robert felt his throat get tight. Most people said empty words about Mary's death, but something in Dorothy's voice told him she really understood pain and loss. "Thank you," he managed to say. "I have a daughter, Sarah. She is 15. We are both trying to figure out how to keep going." Dorothy nodded. "Grief takes time, but life has to keep moving forward. That is what the people we love would want for us." They walked through the house together. Dorothy asked questions about what needed to be done. She did not just look at the mess. She noticed things. The family pictures on the walls. The way the morning light came through the kitchen window. The small garden tools by the back door that showed someone had cared about the flowers outside. "Your wife loved this house," Dorothy said. "It was not a question." "Yes, she did. She made it beautiful. Now I do not know how to keep it the way she would want." Dorothy was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "A house is not just about cleaning and cooking. It is about making people feel safe and loved. That is what I try to do in every home where I work." Robert felt something relax in his chest. This woman understood. They talked about money and days and hours. Dorothy would come 3 days a week. She would clean, do laundry, and cook some meals. She would be there when Sarah came home from school on those days. "I have one rule," Dorothy said before they finished talking. I treat every family with respect, and I expect the same back. I do good work. I am honest. I care about the people I work for. If you can accept that, then we will get along fine." Robert agreed, but as Dorothy walked to her car, doubts started creeping into his mind. That evening at dinner, Sarah was excited. "She seems really nice, Dad. And did you see how clean she got the kitchen in just the time you two were talking? It sparkles." But later, after Sarah went to bed, Robert called his friend Bill from the country club. "You hired a black maid?" Bill said, and Robert could hear the surprise in his voice. "Bob, you need to be careful. I know you want to think the best of people, but you have valuables in that house. Important papers, Mary's jewelry. You cannot just trust anyone with access to everything you own." "Dorothy comes with excellent references," Robert said, but he could hear the doubt in his own voice. "References from who? Other black families? Bob, I am telling you this as a friend. Keep your valuables locked up. Watch what goes missing. These people, they see how we live and they get ideas. They think we owe them something." Robert hung up the phone, feeling uncomfortable. He did not like the way Bill talked about these people. But what if there was truth in the warning? What if he was being naive? Over the next 2 weeks, Dorothy proved herself to be everything Mrs. Peterson had promised. She arrived exactly on time every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The house began to feel like home again. She cooked meals that reminded Robert of his childhood. She talked to Sarah about school and boys and dreams for the future. But Robert's friends kept planting seeds of doubt. At the country club, they told stories about maids who stole things, about trust that was broken, about good families who learned hard lessons about being too kind to people who did not deserve it. Robert found himself watching Dorothy when she did not know he was looking. He noticed when she cleaned his study where he kept important papers. He saw her dust around the painting on the wall that hid his safe. He wondered what she thought about when she saw how much money he had compared to what he paid her. The safe behind the painting held $500 in cash, important business documents, and Mary's jewelry collection. Mary's engagement ring, her grandmother's pearl necklace, the diamond earrings Robert had given her for their 10th anniversary. Things that could never be replaced. One night, Robert lay in bed thinking about Bill's warnings, about the stories from the country club, about the responsibility he had to protect Sarah's future and Mary's memory. An idea began to form in his mind, a test, a way to know for sure if Dorothy could be trusted. It was not a nice idea. It was not something Mary would have approved of, but Robert told himself it was necessary. He told himself it was smart business. He told himself it was protecting his family. He would leave the safe open when he went on his next business trip. Just a crack, just enough for someone to see what was inside if they were looking. Dorothy would be alone in the house for 3 days. She would have every opportunity to take whatever she wanted. If she took nothing, he would know she could be trusted completely. If something went missing, he would know Bill and the others were right. Robert scheduled a trip to Atlanta for the following week. He told Dorothy he would be gone for 3 days and asked if she could stay late those days to be there when Sarah came home from school. "Of course," Dorothy said. "Sarah should not be alone in the house at night with her father away." The kindness in her voice made Robert feel guilty about his plan. But he pushed the feeling away. This was about protecting his family. This was about being smart. The night before his trip, Robert opened the safe and arranged everything inside so it would be easy to see. The cash was in a neat stack. Mary's jewelry box was positioned where the light would catch the diamonds and pearls. The important papers were spread out just enough to show their value. He left the safe door open about 2 inches, enough for a curious person to see inside, enough for someone with bad intentions to take what they wanted. As Robert packed his suitcase, he tried not to think about what Mary would say if she knew what he was doing. He tried not to remember Dorothy's words about respect and trust working both ways. He was just being careful. He was just being smart. He had no idea that, His test would teach him lessons he never expected to learn. Dorothy Williams arrived at the Harrison house at 7 in the morning, just like always. She had her own key now, which Robert had given her the week before. As she unlocked the front door, she could hear Robert upstairs getting ready for his business trip. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison," she called up the stairs. "Morning, Dorothy. I will be leaving in about an hour. Sarah is still sleeping. Her lunch money is on the kitchen counter." Dorothy went to the kitchen and started making coffee. She had learned that Robert liked it strong and black, just like her late husband used to drink it. The smell of coffee always made her think of James, who had died in Korea when their son Marcus was only 3 years old. She heard Robert's footsteps on the stairs and then his car starting in the driveway. Through the kitchen window, she watched him drive away. The house felt different when he was gone. Quieter. More peaceful, in a way. Sarah came down for breakfast an hour later, her hair messy from sleep. "Morning, Dorothy. Dad left already?" "Yes." "Honey, he said he would call tonight to check on you. What do you want for breakfast?" "Can you make those pancakes like last week? The ones with the vanilla?" Dorothy smiled. "Of course. You go get ready for school and they will be waiting when—" "You come down!" As Sarah ran back upstairs, Dorothy mixed the pancake batter. She had learned to cook from her grandmother, who had been a cook for a wealthy family in Charleston. Her grandmother had taught her that cooking was about more than just food. It was about caring for people, about making them feel loved. Dorothy had been working for families for 12 years now, ever since Marcus was old enough to stay with neighbors after school. She had cleaned houses for rich families and poor families, white families and black families. She had learned to read people quickly, to know who would treat her with respect and who would not. Robert Harrison was different from most of the white men she had worked for. He was polite. He paid her fairly. He never made her feel small or invisible, but she could sense something in him sometimes, a tension, a worry, like he was always watching and waiting for something to go wrong. Dorothy understood this feeling. She had felt it herself many times. When you have been hurt or disappointed, it becomes hard to trust completely. When you have lost someone you love, the world feels dangerous and uncertain. After Sarah left for school, Dorothy began her usual routine. She started with the laundry, sorting clothes, and starting the first load. Then she moved to the living room, dusting the furniture and vacuuming the carpet. She always saved Robert's study for last. It was his private space, and she tried to be extra careful in there. She dusted his desk gently, moving his papers just enough to clean underneath, but putting everything back exactly where it was. The study had tall bookshelves filled with business books and photo albums. There was a big leather chair where Robert liked to sit in the evenings, and on the wall behind his desk was a painting of a mountain scene that Dorothy had always admired. As she dusted the frame of the painting, she noticed something that made her stop and look closer. The painting was not hanging flat against the wall like usual. There was a small gap, like it had been moved recently. Dorothy stepped back and studied the painting more carefully. She had cleaned this room dozens of times and had never seen the painting positioned this way. Then she noticed something else, a thin line of light coming from behind the painting. Her heart started beating faster. She knew what this meant. Behind the painting was a safe, and the safe was not completely closed. Dorothy set down her dust cloth and looked around the room. Was this a mistake? Had Robert forgotten to close the safe properly before he left? Or was this something else? She thought about the conversations she had heard Robert having on the phone sometimes, voices that sounded worried, suspicious. She thought about the way some of his friends looked at her when they came to the house, like she was a threat, like she could not be trusted. Dorothy had been tested before. Other families had done similar things. They would leave money on a dresser or jewelry on a bathroom counter, then check to see if it was still there when they came home. She had always pretended not to notice these tests. She had learned that pointing them out only made things more uncomfortable for everyone. But this was different. This was not a $20 bill left on a table. This was a safe that contained, who knows what, important papers, money, valuables that could not be easily replaced. Dorothy sat down in Robert's leather chair and closed her eyes. She needed to think clearly about what to do. She could pretend she never noticed the open safe. She could clean around it and act like everything was normal. That would be the safest choice, the easiest choice. But Dorothy had not gotten through 12 years of house cleaning by taking the easy way. She had built her reputation by being honest and direct, by facing problems instead of hiding from them. She stood up and walked closer to the painting. Very carefully, she moved it just enough to see inside the safe. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. There were stacks of cash, more money than she made in 6 months. There were papers that looked important, legal documents with official seals. And there was a jewelry box that was slightly open, showing diamonds and pearls that sparkled in the light. Dorothy's first thought was about Marcus. Her son was 17 now and wanted to go to college. She worked 3 jobs to save money for his tuition, but it was never enough. The money in this safe could pay for his entire education and more. Her second thought was about her grandmother's voice, as clear as if she was standing right there in the room. Dorothy Mae Williams, you take what is not yours and you lose everything that matters. Your good name, your self-respect, your ability to look at yourself in the mirror. Dorothy closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them, she knew what she had to do. But first, she needed to understand exactly what she was dealing with. She went to the kitchen and got her small camera that she sometimes used to take pictures of Marcus at his school events. She came back to the study and carefully photographed everything she could see in the safe. The money, the papers, the jewelry, box, and its contents. Then she got a piece of paper from Robert's desk and began writing a detailed list of everything she had observed. $500 in cash, mostly $20 and $50 bills. A folder marked Business Contracts, with several documents inside. A jewelry box containing what appeared to be a diamond ring, pearl necklace, diamond earrings, and several other pieces. As she wrote, Dorothy thought about the woman whose jewelry this had been. Mary Harrison had been kind to Dorothy the few times they had met before her illness. Mary had recommended Dorothy to other families in the neighborhood. Mary had trusted her. What would Mary think about this test her husband was giving Dorothy? What would she think about the lack of trust it showed? Dorothy finished her list and read it over twice to make sure it was accurate. Then she closed the safe door properly and adjusted the painting so it hung straight against the wall. She folded the list and put it in her purse along with the camera. Then she continued cleaning the study as if nothing had happened. But something had changed. Dorothy felt different. Sadder, maybe, or disappointed. She had thought Robert was different from other employers she had known. She had thought he saw her as a person, not just a stereotype. This test proved that despite all her hard work, despite all the care she had shown for his family, despite all the meals she had cooked and the comfort she had provided, Robert still saw her as someone who might steal from him. The hurt sat heavy in her chest as she finished cleaning the house. When Sarah came home from school, Dorothy had to work extra hard to act normal and cheerful. "How was school today, honey?" "It was okay." "We are reading Romeo and Juliet in English class. It is so sad but so beautiful. Do you think people really love each other that much?" Dorothy looked at this sweet girl who had lost her mother too young and was trying to understand the world. "Yes, I do think people can love each other that much. Your parents loved each other that much." Sarah smiled. "I know they did. I could see it every day." As Dorothy helped Sarah with her homework and started dinner, she thought about love and trust and the connection between them. Real love required trust. Without trust, there could be no real relationship. Robert had asked her to care for his daughter and his home, but he had not truly trusted her to do it. The test in his study proved that. That evening, after Sarah went to bed, Dorothy sat at the kitchen table and thought about what to do next. She could quit. She could find another family to work for. There were always people who needed help with their homes. But she thought about Sarah, who needed stability and care while she grieved her mother. She thought about Robert, who was clearly struggling with fear and doubt after losing his wife. Maybe this was not just a test for her. Maybe this was a chance to teach Robert something about trust and respect. Maybe this was a chance to break through the barriers that had been built by years of prejudice and fear. Dorothy reached for the phone on the kitchen counter. She had Robert's hotel number in Atlanta. Her hand shook a little as she dialed. The phone rang 3 times before Robert answered. "Hello? Mr. Harrison? This is Dorothy Williams." There was a pause. "Dorothy? Is everything all right? Is Sarah okay?" "Sarah is fine. She is sleeping. But we need to talk." Another pause, longer this time. "What about?" Dorothy took a deep breath. "About the safe in your study, and about trust, and about what kind of relationship we are going to have going forward." Robert's hand gripped the hotel phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. The room around him suddenly felt too small, too hot. Dorothy's words echoed in his head. "About the safe in your study. I don't understand what you mean," he said. But even as the words came out, he knew how weak they sounded. Dorothy's voice on the other end was calm but firm. "Mr. Harrison, I found your safe open behind the painting in your study. I saw the $500 in cash. I saw the business papers. I saw your wife's jewelry, and I know this was not an accident." Robert sat down heavily on the hotel bed. His plan had been discovered, but not in the way he had expected. He had imagined coming home to find money missing, then having to confront Dorothy about it. He had never imagined her calling him directly. "Dorothy, I can explain." "No, Mr. Harrison, let me explain something to you." Dorothy's voice was still, calm, but Robert could hear the hurt underneath it. "I have been cleaning houses for 12 years. I have been tested by other families before. Money left on tables, jewelry left out in the open, wallets placed where I would have to see them." Robert felt his face getting hot with shame. "But this is different," Dorothy continued. "This is not some small test. This is your family's most important things. This is hundreds of dollars and your wife's precious jewelry. You left all of that where I could take it, which means you thought there was a real chance I would steal from you." "Dorothy, please let me—" "I am not finished." Her voice was stronger now. "I took pictures of everything in that safe. I wrote down every single thing I saw, the jewelry, the money, the papers. I did this to protect myself, because I know that if anything goes missing, I will be the first person you suspect." Robert closed his eyes. He felt sick to his stomach. "But here is what hurts the most, Mr. Harrison. I have been in your home for a month now. I have cooked for your family. I have cared for your daughter when she cried about missing her mother. I have cleaned your wife's things with gentle hands, because I know how much they mean to you. And after all of that, you still think I might be a thief." The silence stretched between them. Robert could hear his own heart beating. He could hear traffic outside his hotel window. But he could not find words to respond. "Are you there, Mr. Harrison?" "Yes," he whispered. "I'm here." "Good. Because I have something else to tell you. I need this job. I have a son who wants to go to college, and I work 3 jobs to try to save enough money for his tuition. The money in your safe could pay for his entire education. Do you know how tempting that was for me?" Robert had not thought about Dorothy's personal struggles. He had not considered what it might be like for her to see wealth she could never have while working so hard for so little. "But I did not take any of it," Dorothy said. "Not $1, not one piece of jewelry, because that is not who I am. My grandmother raised me to believe that your character is the only thing you truly own in this world. Everything else can be taken away, but your integrity belongs to you forever. Dorothy, I am still not finished. Now Dorothy's voice had an edge to it. You want to know what I think about when I clean your house? I think about your wife, Mary. I met her a few times before she got too sick. She was kind to me. She treated me like a person, not like a servant. She recommended me to other families because she trusted me. Robert felt tears starting in his eyes. Mary had never told him about recommending Dorothy to other people. Your wife knew something that you apparently do not know, Mr. Harrison. She knew that respect has to go both ways. She knew that you cannot build trust by testing people like they are criminals. What do you want me to do? Robert asked quietly. I want you to decide what kind of man you are going to be, Dorothy said. Are you going to be the kind of man who sees a black woman in his house and automatically thinks she might steal from him? Or are you going to be the kind of man who judges people by their actions and their character? Robert was crying now, silent tears running down his face. I don't know why I did it. I do know. My friends, they warned me. They said, I should be careful. They said, your friends, Dorothy said, and Robert could hear the disgust in her voice. Let me tell you something about your friends, Mr. Harrison. I have worked for some of their families. I know exactly what kind of people they are. Is that really who you want to listen to about right and wrong? Robert thought about Bill and the other men at the country club. He thought about their jokes and their comments. He thought about the way they talked about black people when they thought no one was listening. You have a choice to make, Dorothy continued. You can come home and fire me. You can tell yourself that I was disrespectful or that I overstepped my bounds. You can find another housekeeper and continue testing them until you find one who is too scared to speak up when you treat them badly. I don't want to fire you, Robert said quickly. Or, Dorothy went on, as if he had not spoken, you can come home and we can start over. We can build a relationship based on honesty and respect. We can work together to take care of Sarah and make your house a real home again. I want the second choice, Robert said. I want to start over. Then you need to understand something. I am not going to pretend this never happened. I am not going to act like everything is fine and normal. You hurt me today, Mr. Harrison. You made me feel like all my hard work and all my care for your family meant nothing. Robert felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Dorothy. Sorry is a word, Mr. Harrison. What matters is what you do next. If you want me to stay, if you want me to continue caring for Sarah and your home, then things have to change. What do you need me to do? First, no more tests. No more leaving things out to see if I will take them. No more watching me like I am a criminal. If you cannot trust me, then we cannot work together. I understand. Second, you need to think about why you did this, not because your friends told you to be careful. Really think about the beliefs and fears that made you think this was okay. Because until you face those things honestly, this will happen again. Robert knew she was right. He had spent his whole life accepting what other people told him about black people without really questioning it. He had told himself he was fair and open-minded. But when it came to real trust, he had fallen back on old prejudices. And third, Dorothy said, you need to decide if you are going to be the kind of father who teaches Sarah to judge people by their skin color or by their character, because she is watching how you treat me, and she is learning what kind of person she should become. This hit Robert harder than anything else Dorothy had said. Sarah was watching. Sarah was learning from his example. What was he teaching her about trust and respect and how to treat other people? You are right, he said. About all of it. I was wrong and I am ashamed. Shame is not enough, Mr. Harrison. Change is what matters. What can I do to make this right? Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Come home tomorrow, instead of staying for 3 days. Come home and sit down with me and Sarah. Tell us both what you did and why it was wrong. Show Sarah that grown-ups can admit their mistakes and do better. Robert's first instinct was to resist. The idea of admitting his test to Sarah made him feel sick with embarrassment. But he knew Dorothy was right. If he wanted to truly change, he had to be honest about what he had done. "Okay," he said. "I will drive home tomorrow morning. And Mr. Harrison, when you get home, you will find that everything in your safe is exactly where you left it. But you will also find some things that might surprise you." "What do you mean?" "I spent some time in your study today after I closed the safe. I noticed some papers on your desk that looked important but disorganized. I took the liberty of sorting through them. I found some things I think you need to see." Robert was confused. "What kind of things?" "Insurance papers, bank documents, some letters from your wife that were mixed in with business papers. Things that might be important for Sarah's future." Robert was stunned. While he had been testing Dorothy's honesty, she had been helping organize his life. "Why would you do that?" he asked. "Because that is what people do when they care about a family," Dorothy said simply. "They help in whatever way they can, even when that family does not trust them completely." Robert was crying again, harder now. "I don't deserve your kindness." "Maybe not," Dorothy said, "but Sarah deserves to have adults in her life who do the right thing, even when it is hard. So I am going to keep doing the right thing, and I hope you will too." "I will," Robert promised. "I swear to you, I will do better." "We will see," Dorothy said. "Actions speak louder than words, Mr. Harrison. I will see you tomorrow." The phone line went dead. Robert sat in his hotel room holding the silent phone and thinking about everything Dorothy had said. She had turned his test completely around. Instead of testing her character, she had revealed his own. He looked at his watch. It was only 9 o'clock. He could pack his things and drive home tonight, arriving early in the morning. He could start making things right immediately. As Robert threw his clothes into his suitcase, he thought about Mary. What would she say if she knew what he had done? What would she think about the man he had become since she died? He knew the answer. Mary would be disappointed in him, but she would also believe he could do better. She had always believed the best about people, even when they did not deserve it. Maybe it was time for Robert to start believing the best about people, too. Starting with Dorothy Williams, who had just taught him one of the most important lessons of his life. 3 months later, Robert sat on his front porch, watching Dorothy and Sarah work together in the flower garden. The summer evening was warm and peaceful, and the yard looked more beautiful than it had since Mary died. Dorothy had moved into the guest room upstairs, which everyone now called Dorothy's room. She had brought her son Marcus to meet the family, and Robert had been impressed by the polite, intelligent young man Dorothy had raised. Robert had quietly arranged for Marcus to receive a scholarship to the local college, though he made Dorothy promise never to tell Marcus where the money came from. The changes in their family went deeper than just living arrangements. Sarah was happier than she had been in months. She talked to Dorothy about things she felt too embarrassed to discuss with her father. Dorothy helped her with homework and taught her to cook. Most importantly, Dorothy listened when Sarah wanted to talk about missing her mother. Robert had changed, too. The guilt and shame from his test had forced him to examine his own beliefs and prejudices. He had stopped going to the country club where his friends made their ugly comments. He had started attending a different church, one where Dorothy felt welcome to join them. "Dad, come see what we planted," Sarah called from the garden. Robert walked over to where they were kneeling in the dirt. "What are you two working on?" "Dorothy taught me how to plant roses," Sarah said excitedly. "These are the same kind Mom loved. Dorothy says they will bloom every year and remind us that beautiful things can grow even after sad things happen." Robert felt his eyes get misty. Even 3 months later, Dorothy continued to find ways to honor Mary's memory while helping them heal. "They are beautiful," Robert said. "Mary would love them." That evening, after Sarah went to bed, Robert and Dorothy sat in the kitchen drinking tea and talking about the day. This had become their routine, these quiet conversations that helped Then plan for the family's needs. I got a call from Mrs. Peterson today, Dorothy said. She wanted to know if I could recommend someone to clean for her sister. What did you tell her? I told her I do not work for other families anymore. I told her I have a family of my own to take care of now. Robert smiled. And what did she say to that? She said she was not surprised. She said anyone could see that. This is where I belong. Robert reached across the table and squeezed Dorothy's hand. She was right. This is where you belong. Over the following months, the Harrison family settled into their new normal. Dorothy's presence brought stability and warmth to their daily lives. She cooked meals that filled the house with delicious smells. She kept everything clean and organized, but more than that, she made the house feel lived in and loved. Robert found himself relying on Dorothy's wisdom about more than just household matters. When Sarah started dating, it was Dorothy who helped. Robert understood how to balance protection with trust. When Robert faced difficult business decisions, Dorothy listened and offered practical advice. The transformation was not lost on their neighbors and friends. Some people in town talked about the unusual arrangement, but most could see how happy and healthy the Harrison family had become. One day, Bill from the country club stopped by the house. Robert had not spoken to him since the night of the phone. "Call about the safe." "Bob, I wanted to check on you," Bill said, looking around the perfectly maintained house. "I heard you have that black woman living here now." "Dorothy is part of our family," Robert said firmly. "She is the best thing that has happened to us since Mary died." Bill looked uncomfortable. "Don't you think that is taking things a bit far? I mean, she is just the help." "No, Bill. She is not just the help. She is family. And if you cannot understand that, then maybe we do not have as much in common as I used to think." Bill left shortly after, and Robert never missed the friendship. On the first anniversary of Mary's death, Robert was dreading the day. He had been sad for weeks, remembering how terrible that time had been. But Dorothy had quietly planned something special. She woke up early and made Mary's favorite breakfast. She arranged fresh flowers from the garden on the kitchen table. She found Mary's favorite music and played it softly throughout the house. "Today we remember the woman who brought us all together," Dorothy said when Robert and Sarah came downstairs. "Today we celebrate the love she had for this family and the love she wanted us to have for each other." They spent the day looking through photo albums and sharing memories of Mary. Dorothy told stories about her conversations with Mary during her illness, stories that Robert and Sarah had never heard before. "Your mother was not afraid of dying," Dorothy told them. "She was afraid of leaving you both alone. She made me promise that I would make sure you always knew how much she loved you." She could not have chosen anyone better to keep that promise, Robert said. As Sarah grew older and prepared for college, Dorothy helped her fill out applications and write essays. When Sarah got accepted to her first choice school, Dorothy cried with joy as if Sarah was her own daughter. "I am so proud of you," Dorothy told Sarah. "Your mother would be so proud too." "I know she would," Sarah said. "And I am proud to have two mothers who love me so much." Robert watched this exchange and marveled at how Dorothy had woven herself into their family so completely. She had not tried to replace Mary, but she had honored Mary's memory while creating new traditions and new love. When Sarah left for college, the house felt empty again, but different from the emptiness after Mary died. This was the natural emptiness of a child growing up and moving forward with her life. "It is just the two of us now," Robert said to Dorothy as they watched Sarah's car disappear down the street. "We raised a good daughter," Dorothy replied, and Robert loved hearing her say, "we." Years passed. Sarah graduated from college and got married. Dorothy helped plan the wedding, and Sarah insisted that Dorothy walk her down the aisle along with Robert. "You both helped raise me," Sarah said. "You both deserve to give me away," Dorothy cried through the entire ceremony. When grandchildren came, they called Dorothy Grandma Dorothy and loved her stories and her cookies just as much as they loved their other grandparents. Robert retired from his business and spent more time at home with Dorothy. They traveled together, visited Sarah's family, and enjoyed the peaceful life they had built. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Robert reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. "You ever think about that day when I left the safe open?" he asked Dorothy. "Sometimes," she said, "but not with anger anymore. I think about how it was the day our real relationship began. The day we both decided to be honest with each other." "I was such a fool," Robert said. "You were a man who had been hurt and was afraid of being hurt again," Dorothy corrected him. "There is a difference. Mary knew what she was doing when she asked you to take care of us." "Yes, she did. She knew that love is not something you fall into by accident. Love is something you choose to build day by day through trust and respect and caring for each other." As the stars came out, Robert thought about the family they had created together. Not the traditional family he had been born into, but the chosen family they had built through honesty, forgiveness, and love. The test that was meant to reveal Dorothy's character had instead revealed his own. And in facing his failures honestly, he had discovered something more valuable than anything he could have kept in a safe. He had discovered what it meant to be truly rich. Dorothy reached over and squeezed his hand. "What are you thinking about?" "I am thinking about how grateful I am that you answered our door that morning. How grateful I am that you stayed, even when I did not deserve it. How grateful I am for the family we built together. Mary always said that the best families are not born, they are chosen," Dorothy said. "She chose me to love you both. You chose to trust me. Sarah chose to accept me as her second mother. We all chose to become family." Robert smiled as a shooting star crossed the dark sky above them. "Mary would be so happy to see us now." "Yes," Dorothy said softly. "I think she would." They sat in comfortable silence, two people who had found in each other what they had not even known they were looking for. A friendship built on mutual respect, a family built on chosen love, a home built on the foundation of trust that had taken time to build, but would last forever. The safe that had once tested Dorothy's honesty now held new treasures. Pictures of Sarah's wedding, birth certificates for grandchildren, Dorothy's adoption papers that Robert had insisted on filing years earlier, making their family bond legal as well as emotional. But the real treasure was not kept in any safe. It was kept in their hearts, in their memories, in the love they shared every day. The test was over. The family had begun.